over the map. And I just love it, Orty. I love the constant shifting and ability for both teams, or both players, I should say, to put on whatever kind of pressure is going on.
Oh, I love your reasoning. It sounds great, man. I love the old school PvT where it was like super scrappy back and forth, back and wings as well. Like single units fighting Colossi. Anyway, let's dive into our first map of this best of 5 semi-final. In the top left-hand side, our Red Protoss player from Jin Air Green Wings. He went all the way to the finals last season. Can he do it again? This is Trap.
And down in the bottom right-hand side of the map, we have the blue Terran player, an absolute legend, a player that will be remembered till the end of time for his record in StarCraft 2. He is Kaizi Gaming's INnoVation.
What a record he has as well. He's just won so much stuff. And he's just stayed consistently as one of the best. Like, he's had down periods, right? But he always shows back up to be the INnoVation that everybody knows and loves, which I think is always very impressive, right? Like, to be able to bounce back when you've not been doing so great lately, and then to just get back to being great again. To me, that was, that's what really defines INnoVation as one of the all-time great players, because it's not just like he rode a high at some point when like a style suited him well.
Yeah, it wasn't like a meta shift.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's been able to consistently return to the highest level of play and put on just consistently great matches. It's always a Terran treat to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it actually is hard to to overstate how difficult it is to be really consistent over such a long period of time, of a period of almost like 8 years at this point now, right?
Yeah.
Where it's not even just, oh, there's like a certain meta that you do well in. It's not even like a year where you start to capitalize or you're playing really, really well because things are going well in your life and everything. Think about it. It's through the meta of early Heart of the Swarm. Actually, end of Wings of Liberty, even a little bit, he was there. Legacy of the Void, massive changes. It's almost like a different game, and still he finds the ability to stay consistently pretty close to the top at all times. Like, it's absurd. It's actually absurd. I actually even feel like you can't even say something about that, even about Cyril, like one of our God Kings right now, because he just hasn't been around that long.
Yeah. I mean, he has, but he was just, he just wasn't a god for
He
as long.
wasn't INnoVation.
You know what's funny, though, just before we get into the game, because I feel like Trap almost kind of been doing this silently, though, right? Because I know Trap's, like, shown up again in the last year or so, but don't forget, he, like, won that MLG way back when, and, he's been around a good long time himself, just not quite as consistent as perhaps someone like INnoVation. Anyway, this game, as the SCV doesn't go down, good defense. This first adept across the map rarely does much anymore. A slight delay, good micro from INnoVation, minimizes any damage. And we just move straight into Blink here from Trap. Now, this was a pretty quick robo before an extra gate. Definitely potential for 4 gateways here on Death Aura. That's a style which obviously we saw Pardon use a lot, was very popular in PvT. Very well figured out now. I still don't mind starting off a best of 5 with it. That adept gets out, that's sick. But yeah, I don't mind starting a best of 5 with that aggression, especially on a map like this where it is so easy to go from the main to the natural. We'll see if he adds one final gateway here, if he will just stick on the 3 gates initially and take a 3rd base.
Yeah, and 3-gate Blink Stalker aggression can still be utilized where you try and get up one of those observers. You can blink around and try and poke around at the main base. But INnoVation's going to be pretty happy with the spawn location, because that means all of his add-ons are on the facing away from the outer edge where the Blink Stalkers are trying to blink up from. So a little bit less likely to have anything super duper vital get sniped off. But usually with the 3-gate Blink Stalker, you're looking for like life bits of damage. It's very rare that you see like, oh, I'm going to get Stim Pack or something.
Yeah, so actually Trap's taking all 4 gases as well, by the way. So he's going to drop a pretty fast Robo Bay behind this. This is not going to be... It can go on a charge, and it could be a Temple Archives, but right now, still no 3rd base. Definitely feels like he wants to go for the Robo Bay. Oh, a Dark Shrine. Okay, I wasn't expecting the Dark Shrine at this time, right? It almost feels like if you go Dark Shrine with Blink, it comes a bit sooner. But like I say, there was going to be something before that 3rd base. So this is definitely looking to do some kind of damage.
Okay, so I'll say, Mapu, our wonderful observer today, is pointing out, yes, there's a Raven out. The DTs can still do damage, because I think it is dependent on where you move in from, what you're pairing the DT harass with, and, ooh, that's a really, I have not really seen too many pro players utilize that angle for blinking.
Yeah, I've never seen this angle being utilized as like a blink in to hit the mineral line, but it's kind of smart.
Yeah.
He loses one stalk, but only barely. As there's the Robo Boy I was kind of talking about before. Just comes in on a bit of a delay, of course, because he goes for the Dark Shrine initially. And it makes sense, right? Like, you know, you take those extra gases, it means you're not going to be very Zealot heavy, so you're not going to rush into charge. Yes, it's something you want eventually, but it's not kind of on your, you know, it's not on your priority list. So he'll just play Stalkers and Colossi for a bit here with the DTs to harass. Then you can also add Archons into play, and it does give you that very strong kind of, you know, Colossi Archon splash damage pretty early. And that's very powerful for some certain pushes if INnoVation isn't prepared for them, as the Raven won't do any damage just yet. And concerning that Raven's on, you know, kind of the wrong side of the map at the moment in case DT gets the main.
I'm not gonna lie, Wardy. It's not that anything massive has happened and Trap is just severely outplaying INnoVation, but there are all these small little movements, like the little Blink Stalker from the natural, the way that he surrounded the Hellion, the micro with the Adept against the Reaper, even just keeping the Observer alive in like the perfect position that's annoying. And now the DT is moving in, like you said, when the Raven's not here. All of these things, I feel like Trap is in such good form today. He's going to be running into with another DT into the natural expansion. So one scan is not going to be able to catch everything over here. The DTs pick up into the Warp Prism. He doesn't even lose those. And the natural expansion is still being ravaged. INnoVation is somewhere on the left-hand side of the map, not even close to the natural just yet. What on earth is he going to do from here?
Well, you know, the army is strong though, right? Because the Raven is still over there, so he can actually Matrix the first Colossus that comes out. So there's only 9 Stalkers to really fight this. So I do feel like there's potential for INnoVation. No, he loses it. Oh, it's so close to the Colossus as well. The Colossus is on a super battery. I mean, you can see this is still concerned, but imagine that Matrix went off. This is a very different scenario. Maybe now you could do something. No, not really. That Colossus staying alive and in the fight is such a big deal. INnoVation gets 7 probes. It's something on the counter, but it's not the 17 SCVs that those DTs found.
Yeah, and remember, there was also the potential to warp in DTs defensively as well. And now instead, he can just focus on using those warp-ins again offensively. He's going to warp in some more Stalkers because he feels like, I did a lot of damage and I killed off a lot of your army supply. I'm going to maybe find one of the medevacs over here. The Stalkers blink forward. One final shot does clean it up. And as these Marines try and unload, the Warp Prism is acting as a secondary blink here, Wardy, and actually keeping all those Stalkers alive. My God, Trap is playing so well today, Wardy.
Yeah, it's a really good start from Trap for sure. I like that. It was a scary moment, and he really identified the one thing that would have made it even worse for him, that Raven, right? He jumped on it, he gets rid of it, and then he knows his chase potential from there as well, and he really does chase down the map. INnoVation is still just sat on 2 bases, right? I mean, the time is ticking until something has to happen here. You know, we are just sat back. It's only 3 racks because you haven't had the greatest economy all this time. I'm kind of just expecting kind of half an SCV pull almost at some point, or a very late third. But if you take a late third, you're generally still needing to do some damage. It's really rough. He's going to put the 3rd CC down, not even on location though. Usually if you kind of, you know, expand him behind an attack like this, you expand on location and that makes up for it a little bit. But he can't because he knows the Warp Prism's on the map. He knows Trap's had map control. So he must build that in his base instead. And that's just another disadvantage of an already late third.
Yeah, more Zealot harassment going to be coming into that main base to just slow down production, slow down the reinforcements that are coming on out. We also have the medevacs loading up on the left-hand side as the Widowmine's trying to help defend here. Is Trap going to be in position? A whole lot of these Stalkers are in position, but there is a lot of bio that he has to deal with, so it's not quite enough. Shield Battery Overcharge going to be able to keep these units alive for a tiny bit longer. DT or 2 mixed in there as well, and it is surviving, getting a lot of extra damage. It just seems like even with all the Stalkers going to get cleaned up over here, I'm not sure, is the Marauder count enough to deal with this many Colossus?
No, that's still sat on a shield battery, and yeah, overcharge is being used, but even that little bit of extra healing goes such a long way. At least again, he gets 9 probes out of this INnoVation, so he gets 9 probes while the Zealots get 14. So he's kind of keeping himself in it because of that. The problem is he's stuck on Biomine, and so his only real option is to go for these mega drops. He can't really just build up into anything else right now. You know, he doesn't have the Vikings on the way. He can't really answer Colossi. The only way you win a fight is to split this army up and fight everywhere. And if Trap knows that and identifies that, which so far he has been doing, you just keep enough units in your main, enough units on your third, and you get good map vision, which is, again, what he's done. He's got observers outside the front, so he sees any kind of attacks coming in. And then INnoVation, I mean, the worst that can happen from Trap is INnoVation slows down and techs up, which is kind of what he's doing. But then you're still playing from a good advantage because, you know, it's taken INnoVation so long to get to this stage, then you maybe get a chance to just push yourself. The only thing I really like for INnoVation right now is the fact he's got the armor upgrade advantage.
Yeah.
That's really big, but there's no armory in play. There's still only one engineering bay. Like, this was designed around being played on 2 bases. The third is kind of a backup, and in reality, you look at it now, he's still not really set to play a longer game. In fact, he just won, right? There's no intentions of going for further upgrades.
Yeah, at this point, I feel like he's got to just make some sort of hit before Trap can get up into any other forms of tech, but Trap is just building up his army. He's already got an army supply lead right now, and it looks like he's moving out again. Now, the drop that I think was, or no, sorry, it's just the Vikings moving around. Oh, yeah. I was going to say, it's like a really, really tough call, right? Because you're already barely going to be able to defend against the main army of Trap pushing forward, but you have to do something, right? It's either you have to absolutely dominate the engagement, or you have to find a way to also do drop harass and do more damage to them than they do to you.
Yeah, it's really tough. Here's this big push I was talking about. If INnoVation slows down and tries to tech up, you're just at a disadvantage because you're not going to have an answer to 4 Colossi at this stage of the game. Yeah, SCV's pulling, they get massacred before the bio even starts to get work done here. And even when the Zealots and Stalkers start to take hits, these Colossi are just going to turn on Marine Marauder, and they are murdering as Trap takes a pretty fantastic game number 1, right? He played really solid stuff. You mentioned it earlier. The micro was really good. He took, he took every opportunity he was given, and he really made the most and even more with it.
That was a super duper clean game from Trap. I feel like he just looks like he's in really good form. It's not even like a slight at INnoVation. I think that INnoVation didn't play like super duper poorly by any means, but Trap was just seemed to be on top of everything that INnoVation was trying to do with all the little early game micro harass, even like the Raven and everything, kind of getting thwarted back. And just, I would say like the biggest thing that was really impactful, that I can't even say like, oh man, INnoVation really goofed over here, because it was part of his build order, right? He was trying to make that move out, but he was really out of position for the DTs. The DTs did way more damage than they would have normally if like the Raven and the Bioforce had been at home. But that's not the point of that push, right, Wardy? Like the point is to move out with the Raven and that Bioforce to Interference Matrix a Colossus or something, or 2 of them, and do a bunch of damage. Like that's what the point of it is. So I can't fault him that much for being like, yeah, well, I did the move out for my build order. I just wasn't ready for a DT harass.
Honestly, I think the DTs came in at such a weird time, right? Like, yes, he had a scan available, but that was it. There was no other preparation. He had the Raven across the map. If you're expecting DTs, that Raven's at home. So it just came at a weird time. Like I say, it kind of caught me off guard. I was ready for the Robo Bay to go down. He drops a Dark Shrine instead. Like, if it's a Dark Shrine, I feel like usually that's a little bit sooner. Or you go Robo Bay, then you add the Dark Shrine on. But it completely played off for Trap because the damage the DTs did bought him the time to go into the later Colossi, and INnoVation from there was obviously behind. And I think the big thing as well, real turning point, was the moment that Raven goes down, because I actually really do believe if that Colossus gets Matrix, there's 2 Matrixes available, right? You Matrix it twice, you don't even have to fight the Colossus, you just kill the 3rd base. Like 9 Stalkers are not defending that. So, you're forced to shield battery the natural. I think that's the opportunity that INnoVation had, and that Trap shut down. So again, through and through, really well played game by Trap.
All right, well, we're going to be starting down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map on top of the red Protoss player from Jin Air Greenlings. He is Trap.
And in the upper right-hand side, our blue Terran player from KZ Gaming, it is INnoVation.
It's funny, Wardy, because you're talking about how Trap, he did have that stint way back when he won that MLG and everything. And then he really just honestly wasn't getting many results for a while. And in my mind, like my head canon of how it worked was basically, formerly Team Liquid hero, semi-retired, and Gemini was like, I have to find a new savior, I have to find a new person. And he kind of like goes to his closet, opens the door, and he's like, okay, takes down the shrine of Liquid Hero, puts up one of Trap, and he's like, Kalimar, and summons Trap to return to form. Like it's been such an awesome rise to just see Trap coming back up and just being so good, especially in Protoss versus Terran. But overall, I feel like he's really solidified a lot of his other matchups this year.
Well, I mean, we used to talk about Trap, PVZ is where he died, right? PVZ, he just lost in the GSL finals too. He couldn't win against, like, he looked like a different player in PVZ compared to PVT and PvP. And that's not the case this year. This year he really put up a fight. He took down Reno last season finals. He took Cyril to 6 maps. It's a trap that looks like you really worked on his weaknesses. And that's really nice because we're running out of Protoss players in Korea. So we kind of needed somebody to step up and be that all-around new amazing Protoss. And I know Trap ain't new, but it's good that he's been able to step up a little bit and be like, hey, you know, I'll be the Protoss hope if you guys need one.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't agree more, and he absolutely has been for a lot of Protoss players who are just looking to try and improve or looking on cute ways to play better and everything. But there's one thing that I feel like this maybe almost is reminiscent of the why Gemini is also a big fan of Trap as well. But like the same way that Liquid Hero used to be that player you could look at, and I feel like as a Protoss player, I get excited watching us play. I'm like, I want to do that. And then you try to execute some of the things that he does, and you're like, oh, this just doesn't work unless you're really good. Like, it's actually kind of frustrating to watch them sometimes because you're like, I can't do that. Like, it's not like sometimes you watch and you're like, I'm gonna copy this great build order from Stats or INnoVation or something. You're like, oh, I can't actually micro my Oracle like that. Like, that's physically impossible for me. So I guess I can't do this build order.
Well, as the bunker goes up yet again, we're going to have a super safe INnoVation for your Dragon. Honestly, I know this isn't like a super fast adept going across the map, and it picks up a bit of info, but I do feel like it's becoming less and less frequent that we see these early adepts ever dealing damage. Terrans have really figured out, hey, you know, let's just get a bunker every time. It's better than dealing with this nonsense. And yeah, I mean, now you've kind of got 2 adepts there, and the thing is 2 adepts are only really good for this, right? You know, there's even 1 more adept at home, and what else are they meant to do? Like, 3 adepts are kind of meant to join up with the Oracle and dive in the natural together, but that ain't happening with a bunker.
Yeah, I feel like I've still occasionally been able to see when, like, once the 3 Oracles finish up and the adepts do the dive in, like, sometimes, every so often, it's just because, like, the Oracles can either join the adepts at the natural, or you can actually just go to the main base of the Oracles and split up the Marines between the main and the natural. It kind of gets awkward. I feel like there's still some opportunities there, but I agree. It's something a lot of Terran players have definitely figured out how to handle, and we'll see how prepared for this INnoVation ends up being.
Sees the Oracles. That's a huge bit of
very good
info, right? Because he was playing a little bit blind until now, so seeing the Oracles, A, confirms what it is, and B, now you can play around that. You know, you see a siege tank and a Raven. If he'd known about the starports, about the Stargate sooner, he probably wouldn't be going Raven siege tank. And right now he drops an auto turret. That's not ideal. He will lose a few SCVs. Oh, the Widow Mine gets an Oracle. That's massive. I actually wonder if that opens up INnoVation to go across the map, because now he actually doesn't need that much anti-Stargate stuff to go and punish the 3rd base, because he's killed one of the Oracles already. So I can see a world where like a couple of tanks and Marines go across the map, but it's also going to be a world where he's on his way to stim in a 3rd Rax, and so there might just be stronger timings down the line.
Yeah, and for those who are wondering, the reason why it's 3 Oracles is this magic number where suddenly it's not as scary, is that the 3 Oracles are what you need to one-shot a lot of those workers. So the workers just go down a lot slower, and even just facing off versus the Marine count becomes a lot scarier for those Oracles if they end up finding, you know, small numbers of Marines. It takes a lot more damage to actually get through that. So we end up seeing just small pokes and prods over here from Trap. He might end up letting some of these shades finish every so often, but probably just wants to keep an eye on things with those depth shades and just keep the Oracles alive. That's going to be the name of the game here. You do not want to lose the Oracles.
Oh, ooh, that's so bad. He even takes so much more damage on the 1 Oracle that remains. That means it's just fragile. You know, now it's even more risky to come in and get those revelations. Trap losing 2 of the 3 early game Oracles. I mean, that's his tech, Fear Dragon. You know, that's what he built early in this game. He spent hundreds of gas on it. Now he's building up a Phoenix count to help shut down drops and so on. I really believe as INnoVation hits Stim, Combat Shield, and +1, that there's a pretty good chance he can go across the map and do some pretty serious damage. You might not end the game. I feel like you're going to lose a lot of units. You're probably going to have to lose the Phoenix trying to lift up tanks and save the day. I mean, I can see a game where this ends, perhaps, with this attack. Trap's going to have to play very well defensively.
I completely agree with you right now, Wardy, and I think it's a tough prospect. Trap going for the Phoenix, I feel like it's really playing to Eternal Empire, because this map is pretty great for drops, especially behind that natural. I feel like is the big Doomsday area. Nice tag with the Revelation. Is going to at least catch wind of the direction the army's going. Oh my God, the Adept Shades don't have enough vision. Did he have CDSCs? Well, he sees that they're gone now.
Yeah. I mean, it sort of just plays into what we're talking about, right? INnoVation definitely has the chance to end a game or do really good damage, and he says, right, if I pull the SCVs, I will just end this game. So here we go, INnoVation to try and make the play. The Phoenix, that's the thing, that they're an annoyance, right? I don't think they're much more than that. Like, they can maybe take down a medevac. If they come in to lift the tanks, they're going to get target fired down so quickly. I'm really not much of a believer. Fear Dragon, I don't know about this. The tanks are sieged, okay, but do they need to be sieged against Zealots as much? I mean, I don't know if they really do. I mean, he's going to siege up now as the super battery's putting in some work. That's the one good thing about all of this. That's the Phoenix dying, like I mentioned.
Yeah, they try and go in for the lift up on the siege tanks, and I've got to say, Trap is actually making this look a bit closer than I thought he would, but there are still far too many Marines over here. I almost feel like if Trap really, really just wants to try and make this work, yeah, just get all of these workers, get the rest of that army out of there. INnoVation is at least gonna have to spend an extra 5 to 7 seconds, which is maybe enough for one more warp in here. But this is do or die right now for Trap. He has to defend his natural. He cannot afford to lose any of these workers anymore.
Nice little feedback on the Ravens. He morphs in a couple of Archons. That's what he's waiting for, some kind of splash damage to help out with this. Bio keeps on pushing forward. Another siege tank coming through to the front and just going to be seeing the Zealot Archon. The probes will come into tank. You can lose a lot of probes here and still be okay because obviously INnoVation gave up a lot of workers himself, but boy are those siege tanks putting in work. The Bio just doesn't take damage, kiting away. INnoVation identified the opportunity to just shut this game down, put an end to it, ties up this series. This is the danger of INnoVation. 8 minutes in the game, he can just end games. If you get that opportunity, if you lose Oracles early, you have to play a perfect game against INnoVation. We'll see if Trap can do that going into game 3 after the break. Welcome back to this epic best of 5 between INnoVation and Trap. A couple of faster games, but I think very interesting games for your Dragon, where we've had one player that's definitely looked stronger throughout the game, with a chance for the other guy to at least make a defense or to make an attack happen. In general, it has been Trap game 1, INnoVation game 2. We're tied up 1-1 now, and it really does feel like this early game just defines them, right? The first 5-6 minutes, if they go well for INnoVation, he's going to stomp you with an SCV pull. If they go well for Trap, he's going to build 4 Colossi and, you know, kill your entire army because you don't have any tech units. So it's kind of how I thought it would look, if I'm going to be quite honest with you, after the first couple games.
Yeah, I actually agree with you there. And I feel like, yeah, Trapped looked unbelievably super solid in the first game. And then the second game, it really was like Trap making those missteps. INnoVation just pouncing on that opportunity, you know, immediately clawing back as Predator starts moving a little too far forward, and Trap definitely getting scratched there. So we move into game number 3 here with a tied up series 1-1. Remember, this is still a best of 5. We still get a minimum of 2 more games out of both of these players. Let's see how it's going to go as we start up at the top right-hand side of the map. Top of the red Protoss player from Jin Air Green Wings. He is Trap.
Taking on the blue Terran in the bottom left-hand side from Kaizi Gaming, it's INnoVation.
Can you see what that photo is behind INnoVation? Is that just a skyline?
Yeah, I think so.
And then to the left of it, it's like this. Look, Wardy, I'm not going to pretend like I'm an interior designer, but the alignment of those portraits on INnoVation's wall are really getting to me. Where there's just like a skyline with a border around it and everything. It's got like a frame. And then like to the left and slightly above, we have a smaller photo of him I assume it's him holding a trophy, right?
Yeah, I think it is him holding a trophy. That's why I was thinking like on a stage or something.
Yeah.
Well, he's obviously
look,
just waiting for everyone else to print out the other photos of him holding trophies, but no one's done it yet. And this is his plea for help. He's like, you guys are an INnoVation fan, and you've got one of my, you know, old-time victories. I know it's been a year and 3 months. Fear Dragon reminded me. Thanks, Fear Dragon. But you know, if you want to send me a photo of myself, I'll put it on my wall.
Yeah, man. You know, you'd think that's with someone who's won about $700,000 in prize money, you would have hired an interior designer for your room. You know, of course it's Korea, right? So probably it's literally one room. But you know, he's gonna spend that money elsewhere. Maybe he's being responsible like me, and is just putting it all in like into long-term like. Okay, you know, I'm not gonna actually say anything on that because I'm really, really conscious about giving legal, or like not legal advice, but tax advice and stock advice. So I'm just gonna say maybe he's saving his money.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got no idea where this was going. I'm sorry for it, Greg. I didn't mean to.
I'm not gonna lie, Wardy. I don't know how we started on the photos and ended up on stocks, but regardless,
no, that's what I'm trying to figure out still. Like, I feel like I missed part of the conversation, but I'm pretty sure I listened to you. That's what I'm missing.
It's okay. That's just a normal conversation with me. Regardless, we actually have some cool StarCraft going on. We got the Adept opening yet again coming on forward, but look at that. 2 SCVs pulled alongside the SCV that's building everything. The Reaper even trying to grenade where the Adept might have tried to shade and just hard denying it. So Adept won't be able to get any kind of denial on that natural expansion for any period of time. And it's going to be kind of like what you said last game looked like, where, yeah, the Adept openings don't usually get a lot of damage done against top-notch players.
I like this Blink opening. I mean, Everdream is back to one of these maps where you can again threaten the, you know, the natural and the main very easily. You don't necessarily have to go up to 4 gates for that to be a threat. Just the fact that it is Blink and have INnoVation thinking about it, right? So I like that. Obviously, INnoVation's setup probably going to look like. I don't think INnoVation needs to change what he's doing, and INnoVation has always done that, right? He finds something that works and he sticks to it. So I think he's just going to keep on building a Raven into like Siege Tank Marine, and like I think that's just going to be his style this game, because it is a standard style to get him going. That's a nice grenade. Hellion will get into Scout the Twilight Council, which is what you built the Hellion for, that little bit of extra health to get in and scout with, and probes are just a bonus at this point.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be pretty nice for all these little, even just a single probe that you can kill, because I do feel like he did need to do some sort of equalizing damage, or probably wanted to, with the fact that the Adepts denied mining here at the Natural for a really long time. Honestly, it was almost like a minute and a half for 4 SCVs, and each SCV mining about like 35 to 45 minerals a minute. It adds up. It really does add up. That's like an extra barracks that INnoVation is going to be a bit further behind on. So killing a worker, definitely nice.
Yep. Anything you can get at this stage of the game is always going to be like a good little something, right? Like, it all helps out. As the RoboBay goes down, so again, Trap is not really a massive fan of this, like the faster third base, relying on kind of gateway units, charge bots, and stalkers. He really seems to prefer going into that RoboBay. Obviously, last game he kind of did go to the third a little bit faster, but that was off the Stargate anyway, so it's a little bit different. Off this blink, he really does prefer to play that Textile. So this time, just the RoboBay. I mean, this is kind of what I was talking about in Death Aura, right? You expect the RoboBay to come down off 4 gas. You get into Colossi nice and quickly. This time, there's no weird, wonky Dark Shrine, and that gets me interested in INnoVation to see how he wants to approach this game against, like, faster Colossi. Especially because I feel like a lot of INnoVation's TVP I've seen lately, he has been a little reluctant to tech up, even when he has had the chance to. He has played a lot of, like, aggressive bio-mine and kind of sticking around that composition. So, yeah, really interested to see how he approaches it, but especially how the kind of the 7-8 minute push goes, because with the Raven having double Matrix, that's obviously going to be pretty good and pretty powerful against Colossi.
Yeah, just for clarity, I guess, what kind of tech up do you usually like to see against those Colossus that you feel like INnoVation should be going for a bit more?
So if he keeps building siege tanks, yeah, I kind of like that. That's not really a tech up, but it's still like tech that works against Colossi, right? I've just seen him playing like a lot of bio mine and then not going anywhere else. Now, because it's faster Colossi, it might be he never goes to mines, right? And that might be just a nullified point that I made. So I kind of just like the siege tanks for now. And then as you get a third base, you kind of go Vikings and Ghosts around the same time. Because the Vikings are just so good at shutting down the Warp Prism as well. And I think that's pretty important in a fight, you know, when it's harassing. So just in general, I think just obviously the typical Viking Ghost, once he gets up to 3 bases, I just don't want to see him kind of like making a tank push and then being like, right, I'm just going to keep spamming bio units, trying to drop you everywhere.
No, I'm definitely with you there. Well, we do have
third, by the way.
Yeah, that's a good point. No third there for INnoVation just yet. That is definitely signaling that he really wants to make something happen with this push-in. And this time, he's not going to have to worry about DTs, but the Observer spots out the army moving, and I guess the Raven spots out the Observer, so the Observer will go down, but Trap is at least going to be wary about the push-out, which, funny enough, is actually now retreating after having been spotted.
Yeah, he's building Vikings so early. I think this is an SCV pull. Only 2 medevacs. I mean, you can take a third behind us, sure, but the 2 medevacs is the weird thing, because usually with this amount of tanks, you don't worry about the Colossi that much, because at the very least defensively, they can't push into you, because the tank target fire is really good on those Colossi. So the Vikings are just super early. Again, it's only a single engineering base, so it's not double upgrades. It just, there's a lot of things that signal very late third base to me, and like I say, I'm just not sure if it's even really going to be a third base. Obviously, the more time that passes, the more time I think is going to be a third, but I mean, it's still only 2 medevacs, has me wondering. This first push is scary for those Colossi, though.
Yeah, and I will say the Adept did manage to shade on forward far enough that maybe, especially, okay, with the Observer, he knows this isn't an SCV pull, at least for now, so he's going to move forward with the Stalkers, tries to get a tank, loses a Stalker in the process, and maybe delays the push in a little bit, but there's a big stim forward. Colossus, one of them already sitting with no shield, just going to get focus fired down by a lot of these Marines and Marauders. It is managing to survive, but those Vikings going to be able to finally get that last blow on it. We already see the Trap is in a lot of trouble here.
Yeah, losing the Colossi is really bad because he didn't use the Raven energy yet. So he still has 2 Matrix against 2 Colossi. So you're going to take this next fight with no splash damage. It's just that simple. He actually goes double Matrix right now. This is it. There's no splash damage, Fear Dragon. There's absolutely nothing to stop this army running in. And INnoVation's just going to run through. He actually lets a couple of his tanks go down, but now they're in position. Even just 2 of them with a little bit of Viking support. Those Colossi are going to be weak. There goes the Robo. INnoVation's in a hell of a spot right now.
Yeah, there's not even that large of an army left over here for Trap. He's still got those 2 Colossus at least, and so far, yes, he's losing the Robo and everything, but he hasn't lost any of his bases just yet, hasn't lost any workers, but that is about to change as a lot of those units start coming forward. Zell's coming in from the main base to try and flank. Colossus getting in on top of a lot of the bio. The Sea Shanks now going to start trying to focus fire down one of the Colossus, and one of them does go down, and Immortal also coming in from the main base, and Pro's being pulled. Trap is just hoping that he can barely manage to hold on over here. A Viking going after that last Colossus. It does get sniped off, and it looks like Trap is somehow going to hold here, but it is definitely a costly hold.
I mean, that's just the power of Zealots against an army that's not built against Zealots at all, right? The Siege Tanks don't do well against them. The Medivacs on that to really heal this, the bio. And so Trap gets a hold. INnoVation was a scary push, but I think he needed to get the second Colossus, in the previous fight. Or both the Colossi, or one of them, just a little bit more, because sitting there kind of let him be flanked is kind of like what you said you wanted to see on Eternal Empire that we didn't get to see. And that flank's just so good because this army is not designed to deal with charge lots at the slightest. So it's a problem because now Trap has 3 bases still mining. INnoVation's been on 2 bases this entire time. This was a 2-base all in, right? The Vikings were earlier than usual. That was our first sign. There was only a second engineering bay. And we're now back in where we were on Death Order, where INnoVation's kind of playing a, kind of a late third, if he's going to build a third at all. He's got a low tech count, and Trap is starting to get up there. The only good thing is he killed that Robo, and so that does stop new Colossi from coming out for a while. But now we've got a new one up, and Disruptor's coming out, and there's about to be 2 at a time.
Yeah, going for the double Robo, I'm a huge fan of over here, just because, remember, he lost his robotics facility earlier during those fights. So he only is sitting on 1 Colossus. He really needs as much as he can get. And does double Disruptors against an SCV pull, Wardy? Like, the Disruptors actually don't care how many SCVs you pull. It will kill all of them, irregardless of whatever you do with them.
Yeah, Zealot's going to counterattack, so making sure that the INnoVation is all in with this, basically, as there's our first Disruptor shot. Oh, he gets it! The second Disruptor shot will land, though, Fear Dragon, and that's the major damage done. The Super Battery is active. The Colossus, though, might still go down. Other things are being healed, and there might be enough bio here to make this work. The third base is still under fire, but the SCVs don't exist anymore across the map.
Oh, there's only 14 workers. At this point, all Trap has to do is eventually hold. He doesn't even have to hold with this initial thing, but he is actually making a lot of progress here. He gets a full surround on this bio with the Zealot. 1 Disruptor even still manages to survive, and Trap pushes his opponent back and keeps the third base alive. Wardy, are you kidding me? INnoVation didn't even get the third.
The big thing here is that INnoVation couldn't send his reinforcements, because reinforcements might have won him this fight, but he had to clean up the Zealots, right? And so he has to go back home to get reinforcements, at which point Trap's had 2 more Disruptors added in, more Zealots. In fact, he's going to run in here and catch some reinforcements as well. INnoVation going to go for one last-ditch attempt across the map, but extra Zealot warpins, they're just not going to let this do anything. Look at that Disruptor count as well. Oh, it's over. Trap's going to go up in this game, I think, because this fight just should not ever go INnoVation's way.
Yeah, even with the sickest of 6 splits, it's going to be an incredibly tough fight. But, INnoVation has no choice. He's going to try and go for it. Oh, it takes a big Disruptor shot over there. And he will, I think, maybe be able to get this Nexus. But no, the battery's healing it up.
Yeah. Super Battery for the Nexus. Disruptor gets a connection, and INnoVation will not have enough. I absolutely believed he was going to kill Trap at multiple points of this game, but Trap did a wonderful job of holding on. This was super stressful, super close. I mean, one slight mismove, and Trap can just fall apart in an instant. Really sick defense from Trap, and I love the timing of the Zealot counterattacks. At the end of the day, if that Zealot counterattack showed up too soon, he dies across the map even harder. If it shows up too late, reinforcements get there and kill him off as well. So I think that's one of the big things about PvT and playing it really well, is knowing when to send your Zealot in as a counter, and Trap really did pick those perfect points.
Yeah, I feel like the thing that so far Trap has absolutely nailed is he has basically been able to consistently have really good positional play. If you think about game number 1, you think about all the small little skirmishes in the early game, it was a lot about, like, for example, the Stalkers getting this nice surround on that early scouting Hellion, denying some of the vision, having the DTs run in at the perfect moment. It's like positional play with timing, right? It's if you pair those 2 things together, you can make so much happen in StarCraft. Game number 2 is probably where, the Oracles little bit miscontrolled and everything, but he also still almost starts to make it work with big zealots, like not the run by, but the big zealots around, the Phoenix trying to come in, lift up. Doesn't quite make it work. Game 3, it's all like you said, it's positional play and timing of the zealots running on in. It's what allowed him to bring himself back in the game that it looked like he was going to be dead in.
There's a goal for map number 4. You know what, as well, this is a smaller map. This is a I can push you map. You know, third base is not super easy to hold here. It's very open, so it's very difficult to force field off and so on. So while, it's a smaller map, it's very attackable. I'd be surprised. I could maybe see Trap playing like a more Zealot heavy style here. So like 3 Gath, 3 base, and then playing like Zealot Stalker. Just because that third is open, so the Zealots can charge onto like incoming attacks more easily. And then it shuts down those tank pushes much better than the Colossi style does. So interested to see what Trap does to switch it up, especially if INnoVation once again shows that early 8-minute aggression.
Okay, well, we'll have to actually wait around and, twiddle our thumbs to find out. We're jumping into the game. We're moving on to Pillars of Gold here as we start in the bottom left-hand side of the map on top of the blue Terran player from Kaizi Gaming. He is the one and only INnoVation.
I kind of feel like Trap just stole a little bit of the intro music of INnoVation there. Aye. Top right-hand side from Jinair Green Wings. He is in the red. It's that Protoss player 1 map away from the grand finals of the season finals for the 2nd season in a row. Give it up for Trap.
Okay, now, Wardy, Gemini tweeted at me saying that every single time I bring up Gemini on the show, I curse Trap. So I'm going to bring him up now, and we're going to actually confirm this theory, okay? If Trap loses this game, then we'll confirm that talking about Gemini during a Trap series will actually, in fact, curse Trap.
How many times do you have to say his name, though? Like, is it an amount of times? Do we have to talk about him a certain amount? Do we have to mention his Trap shrine? Like,
I don't know. That's a good point. Is it like we just have to say it 3 times? It's like Beetlejuice, and suddenly we summon the Trap curse or the Gemini curse.
Trap GG's. Just leaves the game, and INnoVation's like,
Gemini.
He's just like, yeah, I scared that probe away real good.
Oh no, I didn't block the command center and get it to build 1 hex off center. This game is over. Yeah.
Yeah. I can see it. I can believe. I really do like this map. I think it's fun because it's the one map that is a bit more difficult. I mean, a submarine to take like that third base on. It is a bit more open, and that does really kind of give us some kind of, like I say, fun pushes, early aggression from INnoVation. But you can also think of it from the side from Trap. Like, he is able to push across the map quickly if he sees the opportunity. If INnoVation dives too hard, loses units, the counterattack from Trap is very deadly, perhaps. So that's something to keep in mind as well, that INnoVation also maybe has to play a little bit more carefully himself to not die to anything, following up from an attack of his own.
Yeah, it's a very interesting point, and I actually really like what you're talking about with, the layout of how open the map is. And I feel like a really good example for those who actually watch a lot of like Zerg players instead is that I feel like when I think of this map and I think of openness, I oftentimes think of Zerg players and the ability to get run-bys in toward that third base and how difficult it is for like Terrans to wall off, because it's just such a big open area at that forward third, and even the other third is pretty open. So for those similar reasons, Zealots can be really, really strong. And I think you also bring up a good point that I feel like Trap in that fast Colossus style, it's a little bit harder to make work on this map, right? Because if you are just going for those big Colossus plays, you are kind of relying a little bit more on choke points that you can defend.
I kind of like the Stargate on this map, actually. Now I think about it, especially if you just, I don't think I like 3 Oracle as much, but I do really like the idea of like an Oracle into Phoenix or just Phoenix. And he's actually going to start with a Phoenix as well, as we watch this Adept have a pretty good time, finally getting some damage with these Adepts, and that's maybe just the size of the map coming into play. But yeah, I really like the start of these Phoenix, because if INnoVation wants to play like a harassment game into like a big push, the Phoenix shut that down immediately. And then off the Phoenix, you can go straight into that Twilight Council and charge. And then it still brings in that idea of what I was talking about earlier, where you can go into those Zealots and run out the third base more easily. So I kind of like that. He could just play Phoenix as a way to get into Colossi more safely on a map like this as well. So a few different ideas open. Big thing for INnoVation is this low HP Hellion somehow gets in, forces Scout, sees Phoenix production too. So that tells him to maybe be a little bit more careful and be a little bit more thoughtful about sending a medevac with Widow Mines across the map.
Yeah, it's so key that you also see that and that you're not just finding more oracles and everything. We're going to still see the Widow Mines on the edge of the base and everything to try and catch these Phoenix, similar to how we caught the Oracle. But, you know, the Phoenix can survive those Widow Mine hits, so you damage them, but you don't quite kill the Phoenix. And that does mean that that Widow Mine is also going to be going down in exchange for it.
Alrighty. I kind of like, I like where Trap is at though, right? Because now he's got map control. It's definitely scary for Inno, and you can see Inno just builds a third base. And I think that's really smart because it's not how he's played in the previous games. But it's a perfect adjustment to someone who's very safe against a lot of the potential aggression that could show up anyway, right? So now INnoVation says, cool, I'll play a slower kind of game. I'll play more economy focused. I'll play for the longer, kind of larger attacks. And I mean, I think that's a good setup because, like I say, the more time that goes on, yeah, the Phoenix can do more damage to SCVs, but the less important they become at defending a big push on the third and so on. And again, that's their kind of initial role to play.
Yeah, and we saw exactly that kind of philosophy with the Eternal Empire game, right? Where there was the big push over the third base on Eternal Empire from INnoVation. Trap had opened up with Phoenix, and of course he'd also lost his oracles, which had definitely delayed things even more. But there was just nothing. There was barely anything there for Trap to actually defend with. So this game, Trap has a slightly better start. We got a Robotics Bay also coming on up. So we're not going to be seeing the initial early pushes from INnoVation just on those two bases this game. And I feel like we get to see maybe what Trap was hoping the Eternal Empire game would turn into.
Yeah. I like it. There's that Colossus, Robobay coming up to the first Colossus gets to start. I like it a lot because I feel like we're finally going to see a bit of a macro game between the two of them, right? Like, I feel like we're finally going to get to see something that's not just one guy takes, 20 SCVs of damage to DTs in the first minutes, or the other guy just loses his base. So I wouldn't mind seeing like the 15-minute marker of a game in this first series, and especially between these two, because once you get up to like Viking Ghost and like Colossi Storm or Colossi Disruptor, those kind of like engagement dances where you're kind of looking around for a fight, will you fight, will you not? I feel like those are some of the things which make PvT such an enjoyable matchup to watch because it's tense, it's fun, it takes a lot of skill, the fights are very technical. For me, it's one of my favorite parts of PvT.
150% agree. I do want to quickly it's just not a major note right now, especially with the way that INnoVation is playing these days, or like in this series so far. But a lot of the Phoenix did actually go down, about half of them. So the power of 3 Phoenix versus 5 Phoenix, I feel like 5 Phoenix, if you find some medevacs that are moving around, you could potentially snipe them off and everything. 3 Phoenix is like, you'll damage them, you'll maybe force an unload, but it's not necessarily going to really just hard shut down a lot of the drop potential there. So I do feel like that is actually maybe a little bit of an opportunity there for INnoVation later on if he ends up even finding like one more Phoenix kill.
Yeah. No, it actually does open up a lot of opportunity, right? Like you say, if there's 5 Phoenix here, think about that, right? Like a few more shots on that medevac and slow HP, and it's easily snipeable. Now, it's still over half health, so it does make a difference. It's also less to worry about for the Vikings of INnoVation. They can target down Colossi without taking as much damage. I don't think Trap wants to fight here. This is a bit of a move out, which is like, oh yeah, look at me, be afraid, be defensive. And in reality, +1 and Charger on the way up. But I can't believe he's actually pushing forward right now. INnoVation has upgrades finished. Hello? Is this really happening?
Oh my god, he's gonna get so many SCVs during all this. Kills off 8 workers, force seals out the army. This is such a dangerous push, and I completely agree. There are more stalkers joining the fray from the warp prism, and a lot of zealots being warped in. Woody, this is working phenomenally.
Yeah, this didn't really add up to me. He doesn't have charge, he doesn't have +1. I mean, INnoVation doesn't necessarily know that, right? Yeah. So maybe that's what INnoVation's afraid of. Could INnoVation afford that? Maybe not. Like, I actually look at INnoVation's army, and I do kind of agree. It's not massive, but he also has 1/1 upgrades in his favor. That's a nice Widow Mine. Sees it leaving. Okay, the only thing that would have been a bit better, that was cute. The only thing that would have been a bit better if he hadn't lost the SCVs, and that is possible if, like, the medevac lifts them up. Because if he saves the SCVs there, I actually agree, don't fight back away. It's losing the SCVs that makes it a bit like, oh, that was expensive. That was kind of costly. Could he not have kind of like looked to fight it back? Interesting moments.
Yeah, I think what made it really scary there for a moment was just that the reinforcing Warpin had not arrived yet there for Trap.
Yeah.
So we saw like a lot less army supply there for Trap, and it looked like this moment where if INnoVation had just decided stim and go for it, it was like I'm not sure that Trap wins that without his reinforcements immediately there. But you know, in the end of the day, Trap is the one that walks away a little bit further ahead from the tiny exchange and the skirmish there. INnoVation is in the bottom right-hand side, was kind of chasing after a few of these zealots, so he's not really postured for a big move out or a big attack, but 2-2 is getting closer and closer to finishing, so I'm sure he's going to be thinking about it.
I wonder how much he commits on 2-2 because he's got a really good Viking count. Okay, he has a Ghost Academy. I like that because it means to me he's thinking about a fourth base in the near future as well. Great catch on the Prism. Perfect. Now he doesn't have to worry about any counter attacks or anything, or you know, he knows kind of where they're going to be coming from. Maybe this one in the bottom catches him a little off guard. It seems like he didn't think too much about those zealots for a while. So I just, at the moment, I kind of look at the Viking and I'm like, well, if you can get across the map, you can take a good fight, but the Disruptors are scary. And the Ghosts actually do a lot against the Disruptors because EMPing them so you can target fire them down more quickly is a huge part of just being able to deal with the Disruptors after, basically.
Yeah, looks like we end up seeing all of the Zealot counterattacks getting cleaned up without doing too much damage there in either the natural or the third base. So INnoVation going to be happy about those small little trades. But like you said, this Disruptor is going to be very scary alongside that fourth base. Trap is heavily relying on those Disruptors and the splash damage from his army, though, because +2 weapons only finishing up, no +2 armor. The upgrades are definitely going to make this a lot harder. It's been said for a very long time that PvT is the most important matchup for upgrades, is the most impactful matchup for upgrades. I don't know if that's always considered the truth these days, but it's always something that I feel like heavily impacts these engagements.
A lot of Zealots in that bottom right-hand side. I like this, right? Trap just setting up the counterattacks already. He's very ready to take, you know, to make those plays. We talked about the importance of the Zealot run by his last game. And, you know, they're very, very valuable at this sort of stage of the game too. In fact, Trap, you know, the only thing that's really missing for him is perhaps that Dark Shrine and the Shadow Stride to really hit like proper true late game. Like, there's not much else you want after that, apart from at some stage you maybe start adding on Stargates, Fleet Beacon, and Carriers, which that's like ultra late game. That's like 6-7 minutes from now even. So Trap's really kind of getting to the final army, and he's pushing with it right now, Fear Dragon. I'm a little bit worried for INnoVation, just because he's in the defensive position. He's already backed up against the corner, and that means there's nowhere to run to from the Disruptors. Yeah,
the Zealot's actually coming in from the south side as well, and maybe could have actually cared for that Disruptor shot to just zone out that south side a little bit more, but looks like some Zealots also going to be distracting INnoVation over on this north side, but looks like Trap doesn't really want to engage into this either, so he's going to back off. I'm mostly with you on that. I feel like the one thing I wouldn't mind if Trap had added this army, and granted, this is a huge asterisk on this is an incredibly difficult army to also control already. If you add in some High Templars and get them into like a Warp Prism or something to storm, and to control it against the Vikings and everything, but like I feel like that is one other additional thing that I would not mind seeing just because Trap is very good at control.
It's funny, right? Because I feel like we don't see that very often anymore with Colossi and Disruptors. People are just so happy with the Disruptors, like forcing the Terran. I guess because the Disruptor kind of fills the role. Like it stops the Terran chasing you, it forces the Terran to split in a fight.
This is a nice snag.
Ooh, only one Ghost going down. The big thing for INnoVation in that fight was the EMPs were perfect, right? They really hit all the Archons. They had no shield, so they're basically going to walk forward and die. And that's why I think Trap disengages, because there's just too many shields lost ahead of the fight. And he's still only playing 2 Colossi, so those Vikings are going to kill those very quickly. So then if your Archons are down, your Colossi are down. Disruptors on their own aren't really a reliable form of splash damage. This could get weird as these armies are kind of wrapping around each other. INnoVation, he just eats. Oh no! INnoVation just got disrupted and maybe out of this game because that was a lot of Disruptors he just ate in a row. There's a couple more coming through. He collects on a couple of these Ghosts. It's kind of weird because now the Vikings are going to land on top of the Stalkers, but here come the Soundsphere Dragon to help play cleanup, and Trap comes out with a huge army supply advantage still, rushing into this third base now. And INnoVation, boy, is he in trouble as he lifts up once again. Oh, he's in so much trouble right now.
He has unbelievable amounts of trouble at this point, Wardy. As we just see, the Trap is leading up 60 supply. I said it before and I'll say it again, Wardy. Positional play and timing. Trap finding that little opportunity to dart his army over to the left, forcing INnoVation to chase him. and just leaving his disruptors behind, just zoning him out. INnoVation had no choice. He had to go that way, or he would just start losing bases for free. And he had to make his way through the disruptors, but the disruptors are not that easy to make their way through, as one of those bases does end up having to lift off and completely retreat on out. We see the Trap is feeling confident enough that he's just going to move into the natural. Turns into a bit of an awkward engagement here with all of the walling in, so I like the decision. Just go for the other base. Go shut down the 4th base. Bring your opponent back to a half a base economy at this point. And the game is yours. The game is yours to lose from here.
Yeah, it really is, right? I mean, INnoVation's going to lose the 4th base as well. He'll lose all of these SCVs, so he really is working on 0 income. The libs are nice, but they're just a little bit too late to the party. That fight from INnoVation was bad. The thing is, INnoVation had the army as Trap takes it down. He goes to the season finals.